Rise and shine, Slick. Welcome back to
We've
Earth.
been watching you breathe all quiet. Thought maybe you were playing possum.
Please admit you're an alien. I'm not an alien. I'm just a guy.
You have the wrong person. Don't lie to us, boy. We saw that shiny egg crash behind the ranch. You crawled out and balled as a cue ball. I'm telling you, I'm a film critic. I was reviewing a movie in town and quit cute out.
Bugonia is the newest film from writer-director Yorgos Lanthimos, starring once again Emma Stone in their 5th collaboration to date. This time it features a man played by Jesse Plemons as well as his autistic cousin who kidnap Emma Stone's character, believing her to be an alien from an Andromedan planet. Their plan is to force her to take them with her to her planet in order to discuss saving the Earth, which has been falling apart ever since the bees began to die out, as well as some other personal matters. Fun fact, when I first saw the trailer to this movie, there was one thing that I could think of. Back in like 2011, 2012, my brothers and I made a movie called Buck and Drake, Buck to the Future, where there was a side story going on where my character was strapped to a table being interrogated by some kind of lunatic. And in that movie, all you really hear is, I know what you are, tell me what you are, what am I gonna do with this? And it doesn't really tell you much about it because what that movie was doing was it was setting up for the next film that we never ended up doing. But the idea of the scene was these lunatics that had me strapped down that you see from security footage was that they thought that I was an alien. And so when I watched the trailer to this movie, I was like, oh, it's that, but like full-length movie version. And it kind of is. It's just different. Now, it's also important to note that this is actually a remake of a South Korean film called Save the Green Planet. Now, I did not see that film, but after I watched this movie and I looked up the plot of Save the Green Planet, as far as I could tell, it's the same exact movie. Down to a scene about antifreeze, which, I mean, I won't spoil for you or anything, but definitely the same movie. Anyways, let's talk about some positives. So Yorgos is definitely a filmmaker that I consider to just be weird all around, but weird in a good way because he makes movies that stand out in a variety of different ways. Usually you got the plot, which is weird no matter what movie you're talking about. But then everything else in terms of cinematography and editing and framing and acting performances, all this is usually spot on. Perfect. The same definitely goes for Bugonia. Yorgos does a remarkable job making this film stand out as visually stunning. Part of that, which I've kind of come to recognize after watching some of his movies, is that he really likes his aspect ratio to be somewhere in between regular 16:9 and full screen. So it's tall, it's got the black bars on the sides. That's more than just being artsy fartsy, which I think when I was younger, I considered that to be an artsy-fartsy move. Whenever you do something like that, you have to focus a lot on framing the shot to look, well, nice. And you can definitely tell when you watch Bugonia that the shots were definitely framed well, they look great, they stand out as different and unique and memorable. Another aspect that I've noticed from all of his movies is that the acting is usually phenomenal, same goes here, it is electric. Again, he might always have some weird freaking movies, but those actors that he chooses, the cast that he always has in his movies, they sell their performances. Everyone's all in when this director's on board. And I definitely appreciate that. The story of this movie in particular is definitely something else, but I would consider it to be a lot more balanced and normal than a lot of his previous films, and I think that is because it is a remake, so he didn't write it. So personally, I probably think on a technical level, something like Poor Things is a much better movie all around and much more iconic and memorable, but I might actually say Bugonia is more entertaining. It's more rewatchable. A lot of times technical things define if a movie is well done, while entertainment defines rewatchability. And this movie is entertaining. A big part of the movie is definitely the mystery at hand. What the heck's going on? I think that what Yorgos wanted to convey while watching the movie is he wanted the audience to probably question on if Emma Stone's character is an alien or not. Did these rednecks get it right? They might act completely crazy, but even a broken clock is right twice a day, right? And I think that that's the idea that they wanted to convey throughout the film. I think if you're just looking at percentages alone, there's probably like a 30% chance that she's an alien and 70% chance that she's just wrongfully imprisoned by these psychos. But in the same breath, these psychos, these rednecks, are like 100% off their rocker nuts. But again, like I said, twice a day, a broken clock is right. But if we start looking at the negatives of the film, do I consider this film to be a perfect movie? No, not at all. I think that the main problem with this film is predictability. I don't want to automatically assume that it's predictable for everybody watching, but for me, it 100% was. I had this idea in the back of my mind, basically the moment that I hit play, on how everything was going to pan out by the end of it. And I was right. It's almost like I could have written it myself. And the only real reason why I had this idea in the back of my head was because for some odd reason, I kept thinking about a completely different, unrelated movie that had certain twists and turns that almost in a strange way mirrored this movie's twists and turns. And I thought, well, if it's going to do that, this is how it's going to end. And it's exactly how it ended. So I won't spoil on what it did. And I won't even say that it was a terrible direction that they took when they ended the film. I just kind of wish it had a little bit more of maybe a backbone, a creative backbone in coming up with an ending that was a little bit more fresh, maybe a little bit more unguessable. Maybe that's just me though. Maybe I'm just the crazy one. Maybe everybody who's watching this watched the movie at home and was like, what are you talking about? The movie's freaking great. The ending's phenomenal. I don't know. Just for me, it wasn't. I'll just say it that much. And it's really the only complaint that I had about the movie. Some people might complain about the pacing of the film, like maybe the movie's a touch too long. And I won't take away from that complaint. I certainly understand where people are coming from when they say that. But for the most part, I was pulled in from the get-go, and it never really let me go. So that specifically, the pacing, was more of a positive for me than a negative. So at the end of the day, what are my final thoughts? What's my final score for Bugonia? Everything to me is a standout. Even the soundtrack, which I didn't even mention in the review earlier, stood out to me as really impressive, very memorable, very engaging overall. My final score for Bugonia is 90 out of 100 possible stars. That is an A letter grade. But what about you guys though? Have you seen Bugonia? Are you a fan of Yorgos? Let me know in the comment section down below. And as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit the like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next movie review, whenever and whatever that may be on. And until that day comes, peace out.